Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to the live stream. Today is day 18 of becoming a full stack developer in 8 months. Now, I've taken a break for 2 days and it already feels like a week or more. Now, you guys know that I'm doing this live stream, I'm going to work, and I have an e-commerce business, so you know, Black Friday is around the corner, so I had to do some stuff for that business. I had to do a promotion, Facebook ads, fix some things on the website, and that took a little bit more time than expected. But nevertheless, we're back, and today we're tackling form validation. The previous lesson was all finished. I've went through the course off stream, so now we're tackling form validation, and I know this is very important, and we'll take the time to read through it, get to know it, get familiar with all the important stuff, and after that we have a project. After all this time of just reading resources, we finally have some project. I guess it's pretty simple. We have to make a sign up form, but yeah, we'll see how we're going to do that. Now, let us start with form validation today, and we'll see how much we can go through. Alright, so let me have a sip of coffee. Alright, and starting with the introduction. So validations allow us to set specific constraints or rules that determine what data users can enter into an input. When a user enters data that breaks the rules, a message will appear providing feedback on what was wrong with the entered data and how to fix it. Validations are a vital ingredient in a well-designed forms. They help protect our backend systems from receiving incorrect data, and they help make the experience of interacting with our form as dead stupid simple as possible for our users. This lesson will explore some of the built-in validations you can use with HTML forms. We'll also divide into styling validations with CSS. We'll also dive, not divide. So, lessons overview, explain what form validations are, know how to use a few of the basic built-in HTML validations, know how to build custom validations. Alright, so we're starting with the required, which will not let us submit a form unless that input field is filled up. So we often want to ensure specific fields have been filled in before submitting the form. For example, the email and password in a login form. To make a field required, we add the required attribute to it. So as you can see, the input type for email is required, and can we run the pen? Yep. Also for the password it has a required, so we cannot submit the form without these filled up. Now this is also an email field, which if it's not an email format, it also cannot be submitted, so change your password. Nice. Do not enter passwords or get personal information into this page. This code demo. Alright. Okay, to ensure a good user experience and to meet accessibility guidelines, we should always indicate which fields are required. This will often be done by adding an asterisk to the required field label, like we have done in this example. So they have added an, I don't know how to get rid of this wording, but as you can see, the email has a asterisk and the password as well. Text length validations. Sometimes we want users to enter a minimum or maximum amount of text into a field. Real world examples of using these validations would be the old 140 character limit on X, formerly known as Twitter, used to have in its status field, or used to have in its status field. So I guess the bio of the user used to be 140 characters. And having minimum and maximum length constraints on a username field. So minimum length validation, to add a minimum length validation, we give form control a min length attribute with an integer value that represents the minimum number of characters you want to allow in the form control. So they're doing min length of 3, and in this example, what is happening if we just say kj, for example, this is 2 characters, and it will throw us an error. If we try more, we'll be able to eat it. Try entering less than 3 characters. Okay. Maximum length validation. To add maximum length validation, we give the form control a max length attribute with an integer value, which is basically the same but with max length and then the character length constraint. So if we say something like this, we'll be able to submit it, but let's first try with something above that. The text area couldn't hold more characters than that, so but you get the gist of it. Just max length, and you enter what the max length is. Pretty straightforward. With the maximum length validation, the browser will prevent users from entering more characters than the max length attribute value. Try this for yourself in the example above. Combining validations, HTML allows us to apply as many validations as we wish to a form control. For example, we can give our post text area both min length and max length validations, so this will be between 5 and 20 characters for a text area. Number range validations. Okay. So just like we often need to control the length of text-based form controls, there will be many situations where we will want to control the range of values users can enter into a number-based form control. We can do this with the min and max attributes, which allows us to set the lower and upper bounds of the value entered into the form control. The min and max attributes only work with number-based form controls, such as the number, dates, and time inputs. You can view the complete list of supported elements on MDN. Alright, some real-world use cases for using these validations would be limiting the quantity of a product order form or choosing the number of passengers on a flight booking form. Min validation. So to add a minimum value validation, we give the form control a min attribute with an integer value which represents the minimum number we want the form control to accept. So in this case, if we run the pane, we have a form with a label of quantity that is for the input with the type of number. So as you can see, this type of number, and we cannot enter any like character, text inputs. We can only press numbers. We cannot get a string in here, for example, only integers. And the minimum is 1, which means we can the minimum to place an order will be 1 character, and the default value is 0. And if we change that to 2, for example, can we do that? I don't think we can, but anyways, try submitting the form with a quantity of 0 to see what happens. Alright, already this popped up, so rerun. Yeah, place order with 0. So value must be greater or equal than 1. So the value we enter in here must be at least 1. Max validation. To add a maximum validation value, validation, we give the form control a max attribute with an integer value which represents the maximum number we want the form control to accept. So this is exactly the opposite. Here is the max of 5, so we can book it with 5 or less, but if we say 9, it will say value must be less than or equal to 5. Can we say -9? Yep, we can. So maybe you have to add a min max in order to get this right. After a long time, indeed, 2 days without streaming, we're back. What is up, my guy? Thank you for joining. Try submitting the form with 7 passengers. Okay. We have pattern validation, so like email, I guess. To ensure we get the correct information from users who often want to ensure data matches a particular pattern, real-world applications would be checking if a credit card number or zip code is in the correct format. To add a pattern validation, we give the form control a pattern attribute with a regular expression as a value. In our example, we're using the pattern validation to ensure a US zip code is in the correct format, 5 numbers followed by an optional dash and 4 more numbers. So where do they give the regular expression? There you go. So 5 digits, an optional dash, and then 4 more digits. So I'm curious, can we do just please match the request? Okay, so we cannot do 5 digits without the optional dash and then 4 more digits. We have to add in the optional dash if we want more digits. Let me rerun this. Can we do 1, 2, 3, 4? We cannot, but we can do 5. Yeah, sure, okay. If we have the optional dash, we must also enter the other 4 numbers at the back. Entering an incorrect zip code and submitting the form will display the following validation error in the browser. Please match the requested format. This isn't very useful since it doesn't communicate how to fix the issue. It is good practice to use a placeholder attribute to show users an example of the expected pattern they need to enter. So we all know about placeholders. Title, please enter a valid zip code example. So if you do 1, 2, 3, 4, please match the required. So with the title, they're adding that to the error, so it's not exactly a placeholder. I guess the placeholder is .65251 that is initially on the input field, but this title that they're putting is adding onto that error. Super. The pattern attribute can only be used on input elements. Some input elements already validate that data that matches a certain pattern. For example, the email input field will make sure a valid email is entered, and the URL input element will check to ensure the URL starts with HTTP or HTTPS. Alright, perfect. So we cannot say google.com, can we? Alright, so usually this will be a URL address, but with or without the HTTPS. So maybe we have to add some custom validations to that. Styling validation. So we already know that we can target the valid and invalid with let's say different colors or just whatever we want in terms of styles, but yeah, we're seeing that for at least the 5th time now. First of all, we target any valid inputs to give them a green border. Our email and URL inputs initially have a green border since they are not required fields and are valid. When a field is invalid, we give it a red border instead. Try entering an invalid email address and URL to see how this works. Alright, so we're already on to the conclusion. I thought this would take a little bit more time, but it might, because we have quite a lot of resources to go through. Okay, the built-in validations will take you far with ensuring your users enter the correct data. They're quick and easy to add, however, They have their limitations. Sometimes you need to include validations that the built-in validations won't be able to do. For example, validating that the password input and password confirmation input have the same value, or validating that the username has not already been taken. We're also limited with what we can do with styling and validation messages and the content within them. In this case, we'll need to get creative and make custom validations using JavaScript and CSS. We'll dive into how to achieve this validation via JavaScript in a future lesson. It's also worth noting client-side validations are not a silver bullet for ensuring users enter the correct data. To ensure the integrity of any user data coming into our systems, we should also have server-side validations in place. We'll cover this side of validations later in the curriculum. So for the assignment, read and follow along to MDN's client-side form validation guide. Skip the section on validating forms using JavaScript. Go through side points complete guide to HTML forms and constraint validation guide. You can skip the section on JavaScript and creating a custom form validator. Read Saiwo Creativus article improving UX in forms. Alright, so I don't know why this is taking so long to... It's lagging a little bit. Anyways. Then we have a knowledge check and we have some additional resources. Regex. Okay, perfect. So we have quite a lot to go through, so let's begin with it. I'm just going to remove all that is unnecessary for now. I don't know why it's taking so long. It's lagging a little bit. Sidebars, we don't need that. Alright, I think this is it. Okay, so we can start with this MDN article. This is on client-side form validation. Just 1 second. Let me check something. Alright, so it is important to ensure all required form controls are filled out in the correct format before submitting user entered form data to the server. This client-side form validation helps ensure data entered matches the requirements set forth in the various form controls. This article leads you through basic concepts and examples of client-side form validation. Alright. Client-side validation is an initial check and an important feature of good user experience. By catching invalid data on the client side, the user can fix it straight away. If it gets to the server and is then rejected, a noticeable delay is caused by a round trip to the server and then back to the client side to tell the user to fix their data. However, client-side validation should not be considered an exhaustive security measure. Your app should always perform validation, including security checks on any form submitted data. Alright, sorry guys. On any form submitted data on the server side as well as the client side, because client-side validation is too easy to bypass, so malicious users can still easily send bad data through to your server. Read website security for an idea of what could happen. Implementing server-side validation is somewhat beyond the scope of this module, but you should bear it in mind. Okay, so I guess this is interesting. I think it will be about like injecting scripts into forms, but we can look through it at the end if we want. So what is form validation? Go to any popular site with a registration form and you'll notice that they provide feedback when you don't enter data in the format they're expecting. You get a message such as this field is required, or you can't leave this field blank. Please enter your phone number in the format of given format. Enter a valid email address. The data you entered is not in the right format. Your password needs to be between 8 and 30 characters long and contain one uppercase letter, one symbol and a number. A very specific data format is required for your data. Alright, so this is called form validation. When you enter data, the browser and the web server will check to see that the data is in the correct format and within the constraints set by the application. Validation done in the browser is called client-side validation. Let me turn this down a little bit because I notice it's too bright. Okay. While validation done on the server is called server-side validation. In this chapter we're focusing on client-side validation. If the information is correctly formatted, the application allows the data to be submitted to the server and usually saved in a database. If the information isn't correctly formatted, it gives the user an error message explaining what needs to be corrected and lets them try again. We want to make filling out web forms as easy as possible, so why do we insist on validating our forms? There are three main reasons. We want to get the right data in the right format. Our applications won't work properly if our users' data is stored in the wrong format, is incorrect, or is omitted altogether. We want to protect our users' data. Forcing our users to enter secure passwords makes it easier to protect their account information. We want to protect ourselves. There are many ways that malicious users can misuse unprotected forms to damage the application. See website security. Warning: never trust data passed to your server from the client. Even if your form is validating correctly and preventing malformed input on the client side, a malicious user can still alter the network request. So we have different types of client-side validation. There are two different types of client-side validation that you will encounter on the web. We have HTML form validation. HTML form attributes can define which form controls are required and which format the user enter data and which format the user enter data must be in to be valid. JavaScript form validation. JavaScript is generally included to enhance or customize HTML form validation. Client-side validation can be accomplished with little to no JavaScript. HTML validation is faster than JavaScript, but is less customizable than JavaScript validation. It is generally recommended to begin your forms using robust HTML features and then enhance the user experience with JavaScript as needed. Using built-in form validation, one of the most significant features of form controls is the ability to validate most user data without relying on JavaScript. This is done by using validation attributes on form elements. We've seen many of these earlier in the course, but to recap, required specifies a form field needs to be filled in before the form can be submitted. Min length and max length specifies the minimum and maximum length of textual data or strings. Min, max, and step specifies the minimum and maximum values of numerical input types and the increment or step for values starting from the minimum. Type specifies whether the data needs to be a number, an email address, or some other specific preset type. Pattern specifies a regular expression that defines a pattern to the entered data needs to follow. Okay, if the data entered is in a form field, if the data entered in a form field follows all of the rules specified by the attributes applied to the field, it is considered valid. If not, it is considered invalid. When an element is valid, the following things are true. The element matches the valid CSS pseudo class, which lets you apply a specific style to valid elements. The control will also match user valid if the user has interacted with the control, and may match other UI pseudo classes such as in range depending on the input type and attributes. If the user tries to send the data, the browser will submit the form provided there is nothing else stopping it from doing so. In example, JavaScript. Okay. When an element is invalid, the following things are true. The element matches the invalid CSS pseudo class. If the user has interacted with the control, it also matches the user invalid CSS pseudo class. Other UI pseudo classes may also match, such as out of range depending on the error. These let you apply specific style to the invalid elements. If the user tries to send the data, the browser will block the form submission and display an error message. The error message will differ depending on the type of error. The Constraint Validation API is described below. Okay. Built-in form validation example. In this section, we'll test out some of the attributes that we discussed above. Simple start file. Let's start with a simple example, an input that allows you to choose whether you prefer a banana or a cherry. This example involves a basic text input with an associated label and a submit button. Okay, so for choose, would you prefer a banana or a cherry or cherries, and we have input with the ID of choose and a button submit. So you have to, I guess, type out what should prefer. So if I say orange, what will happen? Nothing. To begin, make a copy of the fruit, start HTML. Alright, so we're not doing that. The required attribute, we already know about the required attribute. Other required attribute. So input invalid required. This CSS causes the input to have a red dash border when it's invalid and a more subtle solid background border when it's valid. We also added a background gradient when the input is required and invalid. Try out the new behavior. So orange. Nothing happens. Validating against a regular expression. So live required example, I guess, is the same. Orange. Yep. Anyways. Just 1 second. Was I muted the whole time or am I tripping? We'll see anyways. Validating against a regular expression. The pattern matches a regular expression. It can be used to match character combination in text strings. So regex ps regular expressions are ideal for form validation and serve a variety of other uses in JavaScript. Regular expressions are quite complex, and we don't intend to teach you them exhaustively in this article. Below are some examples to give you a basic idea of how do they work. So A matches one character that is A, not B, as not B, not AA, and so on. So exactly this character, I guess, matches one character that is A. So you could also write H, for example, and it will match H. ABC matches A followed by B followed by C. AB question mark C matches A optionally followed by a single B followed by C. AC or ABC. AB asterisk C matches A optionally followed by any number of B's followed by C. A pipe B matches one character that is A or B. ABC or XYZ matches exactly ABC or exactly XYZ, but not ABC XYZ, and so on. There are many more possibilities that we don't cover here. For a complete list, let's consult our regular expression documentation. So yeah, sure. I'm wondering if there is a learn regex game. I think there is regex 1. Yeah. Matching characters, match A, B, C, D, F, G. A, B, C. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. So there is one, but anyways, we're not going through that right now. I'll take 1 second and be right back. I'm not taking a break, I just need to do something very quickly, and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. So let's implement an example. Update your HTML to add a pattern attribute like this, and what are they adding? Required pattern is a banana or cherry. So now you have to write either banana or cherry, and it will not take an orange. So I guess this is how you verify it. You can find this live example on GitHub. In this example, the input element accepts one of 4 possible values. The strings banana with a lowercase b, banana with uppercase b, and same for cherry. Regular expressions are case sensitive, but we've made it support capitalized as well as lowercase versions. But if you write banana with a capital A, for example, this will not match it. At this point, try changing the value inside the pattern attribute to equal. So if you type banana with a caps lock, it will not match it. At this point, try changing the value inside the pattern attribute to equal some of the examples you saw earlier, and look how that affects the values you can enter. Alright, so constraining the length of your entries. min length, max length, okay, constraining the values of your entries. For numeric fields, including input type number and the various date inputs, input types, the min and max attributes can be used to provide a range of valid values. If the field contains a value outside this range, it will be invalid. Now delete the count core. Okay. So they're adding a number input as well, but I guess that is pretty straightforward. For example, I'm skipping some of this, but it's just too boring. I know most of this stuff, so add some CSS. Yep. How are they doing that? Do you have a driver's license? Do you have a driver license? Span area label required. Legend. So they're not styling the legend, so I'm not sure how. Maybe because the radio buttons are in a field set and this is the legend, maybe that's why it's styled as is for R1, R2. Yeah, I'm just curious because I have seen this on, for example, password fields and so on. Okay. Validating forms using JavaScript. They said we can skip this part. This is still JavaScript. Still JavaScript. So this is most of the article. But yeah, test your skills, so on. What else do we have? The complete guide to HTML forms and constraint validation. Alright, also here let me get rid of the sidebars because they're annoying. This one as well. And the header, I don't need it. Thank you. Alright. What is constraint validation? So every form field has a purpose, and this purpose is often governed by constraints or the rules governing what should and shouldn't be entered into each form field. For example, an email field will require a valid email address. A password field might require certain types of characters and have a minimum number of required characters, and a text field might have a limit on how many characters can be entered. Modern browsers have the ability to check that these constraints are being observed by users and can warn them when the rules have been breached. This is known as constraint validation. So we have again client-side versus server-side validation. The majority of JavaScript code written in the early years of the language handled client-side form validation. Even today, developers spend significant time writing functions to check the field values. Is this still necessary in modern browsers? Probably not. In most cases, it really depends on what you're trying to do. But first, there is a big warning message. Client-side validation is a nicety which can prevent common data entry errors before an app wastes time and bandwidth sending data to a server. It's not a substitute for server-side validation. Always sanitize data server-side. Not every request will come from a browser. Even when it does, there is no guarantee the browser validated the data. Anyone who knows how to open a browser's developer tools can also bypass your lovingly crafted HTML and JavaScript. Sure. HTML5 input fields. So HTML offers text area, select, buttons, but you use input most often. The type attribute sets a control type and there is a large choice of options. Okay. The browser falls back to text if you omit the type attribute or it doesn't support an option. Modern browsers have a good support for all types, but old browsers will still show a text entry field. Other useful input attributes include accept, file upload type, alternative text for the image types, autofocus, focus field on page load, so on and so forth. Spell check, set true or false, spell checking. HTML output fields, as well as input types. HTML5 provides read-only outputs, output a text result of a calculation or user action. So this is very interesting. I didn't know about these the output element. Output name result for AB. Wow, so this is very interesting. It outputs the calculation only using, oh no, sorry, well, it's not only using HTML, but that would have been cool. Anyways, progress, a progress bar with value and max attributes. Meter, a scale which can change between green, amber and red depending on the value set for value, min, max, low, high and optimum attributes. Input labels, fields should have an associated label, ID for the for attribute. So all of this we've gone through already. Automatic validation, input behaviors. Few types and constraint attributes change the browser's input behavior. For example, a number input shows a numeric keyboard on mobile devices. The field may show a spinner and keyboard. Up-down cursor presses will increment and decrement values. Most field types are obvious, but there are exceptions. For example, credit cards are numeric, but the increment decrement spinner is useless and it's too easy to press up or down when entering a 16-digit number. It's better to use a standard text type but set the input mode attribute to numeric, which allows an appropriate keyboard. Setting autocomplete CC number also suggests pre-configured or previously entered card numbers. So this helps the autofill and autocomplete. Using the correct field type and autocorrect offers benefits which would be difficult to achieve in JavaScript. For example, some mobile browsers can import credit card details by scanning a card using the camera. Import one-time codes sent by SMS. Automatic validation. The browser ensures an input value adheres with the constraints defined by the type, min, max, step, min length, max length, pattern, and required attributes. For example, type number min1 max 100 required. So this will probably give, not probably, but it will give you a constraint between 1 and 100, and you cannot enter more than a larger number than 100 and smaller than 1. Attempting to submit empty value prevents the form from submission because it's required. The spinners will not permit values outside of the 1 and 200 range. Similar validation messages appear if you type a string which is not a number, or without a single line of JavaScript. You can stop browser validation by adding a no validate attribute to the form element, adding a form no validate attribute to the submission button or image. Alright, so I'll take a quick 10-minute break and I'll be right back. Alright guys, I'm back. Supreme Overlord, thank you for joining the stream, brother. You're not late indeed. But again, this stream, I think it's also going to be kind of boring because we have a lot of reading to do once again. But yeah, we're back. So you're not late, brother. We have now creating custom JavaScript inputs. So if you're writing a new JavaScript based data entry component, please stop and step away from your keyboard. Writing custom input controls is difficult. You have to consider the mouse, keyboard, touch, speech, accessibility, screen dimensions, and what happens when JavaScript fails. You're also creating a different user experience. Perhaps your controls is superior to the standard date picker on desktop, iOS and Android, but the unfamiliar UI will confuse some users. There are three primary reasons developers choose to create JavaScript based inputs. Standard controls are difficult to style. CSS styling is limited and often requires hacks such as overlaying an input with its labels before and after pseudo elements. The situation is improving, but question any design which prioritizes form over functions. Modern input types are not supported in old browsers. In essence, you're coding for Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer users won't get a date picker but can still enter dates in this format. If your client insists, then what a polyfill in Internet Explorer only. There is no need to burden modern browsers. You require a new input type which has never been implemented before. These situations are rare, but always start with appropriate HTML5 fields. They're fast and work even before the script has loaded. You can progressively enhance fields as necessary. For example, a sprinkling of JavaScript can ensure a calendar event's end date occurs after starting date. In summary, avoid reinventing HTML controls. CSS validation styling, so you can apply the following pseudo classes to input fields to style them according to the current state. We have focus within, so on and so forth, in range, out of range, enabled, read only. Yep. So you can style an inputs placeholder with the double colon placeholder pseudo element, and this will make the color of the placeholder blue for the input type of email. The selectors above have the same specificity, so the order can be important. Consider this example. Input invalid color red, input enabled color black. The selectors above have the same specificity. Invalid inputs have red text, but it's only applied to inputs with a disabled attribute, so all enabled inputs are black. The browser applies validation styles on page load. For example, in the following code, every invalid field is given a red border. Okay. The user is confronted by a daunting set of red boxes before they interact with the form, showing validation errors after the first submit or as a value is changed would offer a better experience. That's where JavaScript steps in. They said also to skip this JavaScript part, as we'll go through it on a later note. Create a custom validator, also this one. So I guess we're up to here. Frequently asked questions. What is the importance of HTML form validation? HTML form validation is a crucial aspect of web development. It ensures that the data entered by users into a form meets certain criteria before it's sent to the server. This not only maintains the integrity of the data but also enhances user experience by providing immediate feedback on the correctness of the data entered. Without form validation, there is a risk of receiving incorrect, incomplete, or even malicious data, which can lead to various issues including data corruption, security breaches, and system crashes. How does HTML5 improve form validation? So HTML5 introduces several new form elements and attributes that make form validation much easier and more efficient. For instance, it provides new input types such as email, URL, and number, which automatically validate the input data based on the type. It also introduces new attributes like required, pattern, and min-max that allow you to specify various constraints on the input data. Moreover, HTML5 provides a built-in validation API that enables you to perform custom validation using JavaScript. So this is quite interesting. Before HTML5 you didn't have like required, and you had to do that with HTML. I just saw someone subscribed. Thank you so much, whoever you are. I truly appreciate you. Can I perform form validation without JavaScript? Yes, you can perform form validation using HTML5 alone. HTML5 provides several new input types and attributes that allow you to specify various constraints on the input data. For instance, you can use the required attribute to make a field mandatory, the pattern attribute to enforce a specific format, and the min-max attributes to set a range for numerical input. However, for more complex validation, you may still need to use JavaScript. How can I customize the error messages in HTML5 form validation? HTML5 provides a validation API that allows you to customize the error messages. You can use the set custom validity method of the validity state object to set a custom error message for a field. This method takes a string argument which becomes the field's validation message. When the field is invalid, you can do this method in response to the invalid element, which is fired when a field fails validation. Okay, so I guess using the invalid pseudo clause, but what else? Or how do you exactly do it? They don't tell you, but I guess if you search for it, you'll be able to figure it out, but they don't tell you exactly. How can I disable HTML5 form validation? You can disable HTML5 form validation by adding the noValidate attribute to the form element. When this attribute is present, the browser will not perform any validation on the form when it's submitted. This can be useful if you want to handle validation entirely on the server side or using custom JavaScript. How can I validate multiple fields together in HTML5? HTML5 does not provide a built-in way to validate multiple fields together. However, you can achieve this using JavaScript. You can write a custom validation function that checks the values of multiple fields and set a custom validity message if they don't meet the required criteria. You can call this function in response to the form submit event or the field's input or change events. How can I validate a field based on the value of another field in HTML5? Again, HTML5 does not provide a built-in way to validate a field based on the value of another field. However, you can achieve this using JavaScript. You can write a custom validation function that checks the value of one field against the value of another field and sets a custom validity message if they don't match. You can call this function in response to the field's input change events. Okay. So we have a few more. How can I perform asynchronous validation in HTML5? HTML5 does not support asynchronous validation out of the box. However, you can achieve this using JavaScript. You can write a custom validation function that performs an asynchronous operation such as an AJAX request and sets a custom validity message based on the result. You can call this function in response to the field's input change events or in the form's submit event. Alright, how can I style the error messages in HTML5 form validation? The appearance of the error messages in HTML5 form validation is determined by the browser and cannot be directly styled using CSS. However, you can create custom error messages using JavaScript and style them as you like. You can use the validation API to determine when a field is invalid and display a custom error message accordingly. How can I test the validation of an HTML form? You can test the validation of an HTML form by entering various types of data into the fields and trying to submit the form. You should test with both valid and invalid data to ensure that the validation works correctly in all cases. You can also use automated testing tools or libraries to perform more comprehensive testing. Alright, so we're done with this one. Finally, what do we have now? CSS to the rescue, improving UX in forms. So I think this one will be a little bit more interesting. Let's look at it. Lately, webmaster and web designer are obsessed about user experience and how to improve it. Tasks such as reducing the website's loading time or finding a good font combinations are always in the to-do list. However, we're forgetting about focusing on the elements where the real contact between the user and the website happens, the forms. Designing pages and sections with contact forms is challenging, but you have to guide your users through each field and get them field correctly. Moreover, if the info added by the user doesn't fit in the field's pattern, you should let the user know what he or she is doing wrong, and this has to be clear for all users, included non-tech visitors. So fortunately, new HTML5 specs have helped to improve the validation before sending the form without using server-side requirements nor JavaScript. By default, input types like email, telephone use a pattern that check that the info is field correct and the forms can be submitted when the user clicks the button on submit. The key questions are: could we improve this behavior getting a live check? Could we also get extra info about how to fill out the form if we get stuck? Does this help get a better UX? Yes to all, and we'll do it with CSS. Knowing CSS pseudo class and HTML elements and attributes to improve a form. Okay. Let's revise some CSS pseudo class and HTML elements we're going to use in our demo. Some of them are very well known, but others have been added recently in the last CSS update. Input and text area. The classics, they will define the fields the users are going to fill out. The typology of input is defined by the type attribute in the HTML, and this is important, as we said above, for custom HTML5 browser validation. So we have different types here. Required. This HTML attribute can be used with input and text area. It indicates that the field should be filled out before the form is submitted. This is very useful to let the users know that we need that information, for example, email or the telephone number. So again, with the required, they cannot submit the form without this field. The required attribute is directly related with the two pseudo classes we can use through our CSS to know if the input is required or optional. They are required and optional, very semantic, as you can see. Pattern, another HTML attribute to check the information added by users. In that case, we can build our own pattern or use the patterns by default. It depends on the type of attribute. For example, if we use the email type, it will looking for an email string with @ in the middle and a valid domain extensions, just .com, .org, whatever. Same for tel or URL. Here you have the complete list of input type attributes. However, the power of this attribute is that we can create our own pattern, excluding numbers, for instance, or any character we want to avoid. The pattern attribute requires a regular expression in order to work properly. The placeholder, the most useful attribute in this collection for UX. It helps user to understand what kind of info we're looking for. It can also display an example data that will disappear when the user starts filling out the input, typing character, and not when the input is focus. Placeholder, pseudo element related with the above attribute. It helps us style the placeholder so we can change the text color or the other font properties to let users know that this is an example and not a real text. Browser compatibility is good enough, however, we can add some alternative prefix rules for each browser. I don't think this is needed no more, but focus, a basic pseudo class that runs when the user is focusing on an input text area or text area. It is necessary that the user click on it to navigate with the keyboard to consider it the input as focused. This article is written very poorly, it pisses me off, but anyways. Valid, invalid, we already know if the input is invalid, if it's invalid, placeholder shown. This is a pseudo class that runs only when the placeholder is being shown. It means that it will be enabled when the input is not focused and when it is focused but the user has not typed any character yet. Alright, so the possibilities here are three. Now we can know if users get stuck on one of the inputs. For example, if a user has clicked on an input but doesn't know how to write, we can show a notice after 5 seconds that helps the user complete it and do all of it with CSS. Another possibility, the user is filling the input but 30 seconds has passed and the input is still invalid. Maybe the user has not understand what pattern we're looking for, type to help with a message or something similar. Putting it in practice, a form with CSS validation. For this example, we have built in a simple form with some inputs to text types for a name and surname and an input type and finally URL type on the text area. It could be valid for a block comment section or a short contact form. Alright, so they've done that. I like how here they have only the placeholder and when you click on it, a label pops on top. And is this only done with CSS? Is there no JavaScript at all? That's pretty cool if it's only CSS, but I guess it is, because as you can see, it's validating live if my inputs are correct or not. So that's pretty cool. Okay. There are 4 required elements, all of them except the URL, because maybe the user doesn't have a website, and some placeholders with the information we're looking for. Easy. As you can see in this example, when you click on an element, the placeholder disappears and the field keeps empty, waiting for the data. To help users remain where they are, we have set the label element above the text, the user data as a false placeholder. To help users recognize if the data added is correct, we have used the classic color palette of green correct and red invalid border color of the inputs. Oh my god, I'm sorry, but either I'm dumb as a brick or this is written with like it's just written so poorly. Anyways, they're using CSS animations and these placeholders, so on and so forth. I'm done with this article. I have no more nerves to go through this. No. What do they say here? How to validate forms, some useful do's and don'ts. The best practice to show validation errors near inputs. Don't gather all of them in one place. So I like this one that is straightforward and straight to the point. There is no fluff, they just go into the tips. So here they're putting all the errors at the bottom. For example, you can click on this, maybe it's a live example. No, they just show you the picture and a advertisement bigger than my screen. But anyways, do not put all the errors like at the bottom in one place. Put them right next to the input field. Sure. Don't disable the submit button. Allow users to click on it and see the validation errors. User might scroll past some of the inputs without filling them. If the submit button is blocked, they won't know what to do next. Sure. Consider providing positive feedback as well as negative. Also, pretty good tip. In error messages, we use human language, not a technical one. Submit, make order. We couldn't proceed. Right. Password is wrong. Your password should contain at least 6 characters. Okay, perfect. Those are pretty good tips. The reader up. Is this strictly for like code related stuff, or is this for everything? I guess it's for everything. If you put an exclamation icon next to the inputs, it might help colorblind people to notice the error. Also pretty good. Don't hide error messages under icons. So in this example, only when you hover on that icon you know that the name is required, but this is a better approach. And I guess this is an even better approach. Show password rules right away. Also, this one I like a lot. Validation is cool, but it'd be better if users don't make mistakes. Help users avoid mistakes. And they're putting some tips besides the input fields. Alright. Now, when to do the validation, I've previously made a thread about it. There are 4 validation behaviors and only one winner. Aggressive mode triggered when the user... this is like a tweet or something. Triggered when the user presses a key. Poor UX because the user might not have finished inputting the data, but the error is already thrown. All right, so what are the other ones? I'm curious now. Maybe here we can jump into the replies. No, I cannot see. I guess this guy is worth to follow if you have X. So go ahead and follow Victor. He's giving out good advice. But yeah, I cannot see the other form validation behaviors. Alright, that was a pretty cool read. Add icons. Alright, we're going to skip through these. I'm going to skip the regex as we've already gone through that. And regular expressions, so on and so forth. We're marking this complete because I'm tired of reading for how many days now. This should be the third or fourth day that I'm just reading non-stop, and we can finally do something and make a project. So this is a sign up form project, and we have a couple of constraints. This project is intended to give you a chance to flex some of the new items you've been absorbing over the past few lessons. This time is a sign-up form for an imaginary service. Assignment, setup and planning. Set up your Git repository, refer to the past projects if you need a refresher, set up your HTML and CSS files with some dummy content. Okay, download a full resolution copy of the design file and get a general idea of how you're going to need to lay things out in your HTML document. So this is the full resolution copy, and it's kind of strange because it was shot on a square monitor. It's a square picture, so alright, this is like one fraction is the image and two fractions are the input form, but we haven't used grid yet, so I guess we'll do it with flexbox and percentages. We have to find some image, and alright, let's set up our Git repository first. So this will be a new repository with a name of sign up form. Outcome case sign up form. Create a repository. Let's see if we remember how to do it. It's only been 2 days, so open up the terminal and we'll cd into repos and git clone the repository, cd into sign up form and code dot. Okay, we'll make this a bit smaller. Toggle wardrobe in a second. Make new index.html and a styles.css. Use emmet to the boilerplate and link the style sheets. Okay, so this is all done. Go live, and there we go. We have the document now. It has to be a sign up page for service, and Pexels, can we find a GIF wallpaper, free GIF wallpaper photos. Alright, this is kind of the first thing that popped up, and it's interesting, but those are not GIFs. I don't think so. Those are just images. So can we find somewhere a hacker GIF, and we'll do like a hacker forum sign up form. Hacker GIFs. So something like that, but this is a bit ugly. Maybe we can do the matrix GIF. The matrix GIF. Can we use that? I think this is a bit too small. HD. Something like this. No. I like this one, but those are very like small, and I need a larger file or a larger file resolution at least. So maybe go into images and we'll download one from here. How about this one? This is kind of cool. It's very small, but maybe we'll be able to use it. I don't know. I think it's too small. This also, it's the same one. Yeah, I guess just GIF images are not very large, so I'm going to go back and just use this one and see what happens. This is very cool, like an ASCII matrix rubber ducky. Cool. So let me download this one, save images, and we will save it in the repos and sign up form. Can we do a new folder here? Anyways, we'll just save it and be over with it. Now, by looking at the example sign up form, we should first just have two containers side by side, and the body will be display flex, which will put in one next to the other instead of one on top of the other, and we'll set the first container, which will be the background image, to size of 33%, and the other one to 66, or just it will fill the rest of the space. And there we'll put, this is not a real, you need something like this in your life to help you realize the deepest dreams. I have to get started. So basically some text. I don't think it matters too much. And then we have the sign up form. But before we start, I just want to check quickly the community solutions and see what they did. Let me open up a couple of the most recent ones. So this one is they did it exactly one-to-one. I was wondering what happens if you click login, but here nothing happens. Alright, email. Alright, login, nothing happens as well. Okay. They're copying it just one-to-one. Sign up now. This man did like a whole, I think he did a few projects into one big project, because this is, I think, the book library from a future project, and he did the sign up form inside of it, which is cool. I respect that. Also here on the login nothing happens, so I guess we're also not going to do anything when you click login, although we could maybe switch up the form input field, but we'll see. Right, so let's just quickly start with it. Open up VS Code, and we'll do two containers. One will be with the idea of background slash or we can do the worst thing in programming, like the difficult thing, is how you name stuff, and this should be like the site image. So I guess we can maybe call it side image. So site image. New project, let's go. Indeed, my man, I was getting very frustrated with reading all of these articles, and this is like a very simple, easy project. It only involves HTML and CSS and some form validation and so on, but at least we're getting to do something after all this reading, which I'm very thankful about. So we'll have a container with the idea of site image, and another one that will hold our form, which is we're going to call it, let's say, site form. And in the site image, now I'm wondering if it's better to use, like, link our image here in the HTML, or set it as a background image to the CSS container. Should you link background image in HTML, or set it as background image CSS? It depends on how you're using the image on your site. If the image adds context to the surrounding content, it should be used inside of your HTML along with nice descriptive auth attribute. However, if the image is purely for presentational purposes, in example a background image, then you should use CSS to add it. So I guess in this example we're using it as a background image and it doesn't add context, so we can maybe just do this one, which is will be our logo, for example, and here I don't think we have to add anything. They just added a reference to the image because they're legally obligated to do so, but I think we're just going to have the logo. So for this one, I think we're just going to do a now should the logo be an H1, because maybe we should put the H1 in here. I guess we can just do a div with the idea of logo, and we can just put hacker forum, and we'll do camel case, let's say, and this way we have our title. We can later add this background that is slightly more opaque. And for now, let's just try to do the site image and the site form in this ratio that is 1 to 2. We'll add some background covering for now, so we'll do dot site. It was an ID actually, so site image, and then we have, was it site form? Was that it? Site form. There was a way to switch between open tabs in VS Code. Control Shift Tab. Control Shift Tab. I see. Okay. So it was indeed site form, and here we can set a background color of black, let's say, and here we'll say background color of red. We'll save it. We should also do the body, so body, and we'll set it as display flex, so they are side by side this way. Here I think we should also add something, so we'll add in a quick form, and with one input type text, just so we have something. Now they're exactly side by side, okay, and the body should have no margin, so we'll do margin 0. Side image should be width of 33%, and I guess this should be flex 1. Yep. So now we have the proportion. They're just not all the height they need, so we'll do height of 100 viewport height, and this actually does it. We don't have to add it to the site form, but I think we should add it to the body indeed. Yeah. Alright, so the ratio is done. We have 1/3 of the screen by the hacker form logo and the background image, and the other 2/3 are the sign up form. Now for the site image, now we'll do background. Was it background image? And how did we URL and then neo? Yep. Alright, so this is how you add a background image in CSS. Now it is repeating, as you can see, so we can do background repeat, no repeat, and this will set it to 1. We can also do background size to cover, and this sets it as full size. As you can see, the image is kind of blurry, but this is because the image is smaller than the resolution on the screen. Now the text is also here, but it's just a bit small, so we'll take care of it now. I'm not exactly sure how we should position it. We can do it in multiple ways, but let's just do some of the styling. It was called ID of logo, so we can do hashtag logo, and we can set the color to white so we can see it more clearly. We can set the font size to, let's say, 30 pixels, a bit larger, 40 pixels, maybe 50. Alright, so we have that. Can we set a background color to black? Yes, we can, but the thing is, now can we lower the opacity of this background color? Can you lower? I think you can by using RGBA instead of just the black color. So RGBA. So we just do that, and instead of RGB we set RGBA for the alpha, and we do it 0.5, and this makes it white actually. So instead of 255 we should set it to 0, 0, 0, and this will give us half the opacity as they have it in here, although maybe in their example it's a bit more noticeable. Now another thing we should set is text align to middle, text align center, okay, and then display to relative, so we can adjust the top position, which will be top, let's say 30%. Alright, this doesn't work. 30 pixels, does that work? No. That is, I believe, because the site form also has to be height of 100 viewport heights. Display position. Yep, you're right, indeed. Not the height, but we have to set position instead of display. Thank you guys, both of you are right. So position relative, and this way we can set the top to 30%. Thank you so much, I really appreciate it. And I actually like it a little bit below Neo's head, so we can do 35 maybe, so we can, no, 40. Alright, this is almost in the center, but anyways, also a little bit of padding, like 10 pixels. Okay, the font is a little bit ugly, but we'll deal with it for now, and we'll just leave it as is. Now this one is light mode, but I think we'll do dark mode because the aesthetic is dark. So we'll keep, I guess we'll not keep the black background, but we'll do it just a little bit more, like, this is too much, but a little bit darker, something like this. Yeah, so just a little bit more, 12. Yeah, I guess this works. Okay, so we have the basic outline of things, and now we just have to set the different HTML elements, which I guess will be a bit easier if I just look at this and just write it out. Let me set word wrapped toggle, and inside of the site form we have to set like an h1 for this text. We also have to do the form, a button to submit the form that is outside of the form, and they already have an account login. So let's site form, yeah, we can delete this input for now. Inside of the site form we'll set an h1. Let me ask ChatGPT for write an epic text for a hacker forum sign up page. This is not a place for the faint-hearted. Alright, so it just needs to be, it needs to be 1-2 sentences max. Enter the vote. Are you from true innovators where knowledge, trust and skill come together in the pursuit of mastery? It has to be more hacker inspired and more epic. The site name is Hacker Forum. Welcome to Hacker Forum, where code breaks chains, knowledge is power, and legends are born. Step in if you're ready to leave the ordinary behind. Alright, I like this a lot more. We can do this, I guess, at a couple of different levels. So this will be the H1. And then we'll have a H2 where code breaks chains, knowledge is power. Okay. Let's say this is inside. And the last one will be like a P tag. Alright, so we're done with kind of the heading of it, and then we'll do the form. The form action will not do anything for now. I see they have a title, but this is probably on top of the form. We'll add in later. For now, let's just add a input with a type of text, and name will be first name camel cased, and then first name once again. So this will be the input for the first name. We also need a label for first name. Now this structure, we can copy it and just paste it for the last name, where we'll just switch up first for last. We'll also add in placeholders, but this is for later. Here I noticed they don't add placeholders, but I think it will be a little bit better if we add those. Then we have an input with the type of email, so this will be name of email and ID of email. Once again, we'll add in a label for email. They also have a phone number. Now, one thing I'm noticing is that I was going to say if we make it display flex that they will not be in the right order, but I guess they will be in the right order because it's going from left to right, top to bottom. So we'll set the input fields to a given space, and since there is no more space to add in the email, it will go on to the next row. So I guess they will be in the right order that way, or at least I hope so. It will be next will be input type tel. Here we didn't get the name and the ID, so we'll add in, I'll add in myself type tel and ID of tel. Also another label for tel. Alright. Then we have password and confirm password. Input type password, and a label for password. We have another one which is also input type password, but this will be confirm password, I guess. So we'll do confirm password. Oops. Copy, paste. Now also get a button with the type of submit, and it will say create account. Okay, just below that, below the form, I think it's below the form, we'll have a p tag which will say already have an account, and then an a tag which will not lead to nowhere but will say login, not log on but login. And this is basically it, with the exception that I see that their form has like a different background and a box shadow, but we'll take care of that. Now let's see when we save it what's going to happen. So we have a lot of text. It's just that by default the color of the text is black, so set it to white for now, and this is better, but I'm going to take a quick break and I'll be right back with you guys. So 10-minute break and we'll finish the sign up form. Alright, thank you guys, be right back. Hey boys, the timer ran out, but I just have 1 more minute. I just need to take 1 more minute and I'll be right back. I have to make a coffee. I'll be right back. Right, so we're back. The coffee is ready. And we're okay to continue. Alright, so one thing I forgot was to read through the rest of the assignment. So because they will give you some constraints and tips and so on. So we've read through the first step, and step 2 is to gather assets, which I guess we've already done, but the design has a large background image, so find and download an image you can use for that section. The one in design can be found on Unsplash, but feel free to select your own. Be sure to credit the creator of your image. Pick an external font for the logo section. We've used Norse Bold, but you can use any font you like. I downloaded it. Alright, so anyways. For the image sidebar, we've used this Odin logo. So I guess I already downloaded Norse Bold, so let's try to add it as a font style. So how it was font family and then Norse Bold, but how do you import it? Import font CSS you downloaded. How to add a custom font to your CSS code. Font family, custom font, and src. So you do a font face and then font family. Okay, so we can do add font face. And where is this Norse Bold? I guess it's a good idea to also copy it and add it to the project. So repos and then sign up form, we'll paste in here so you have the font, and when we deploy it, it will not be like an Arial font. So font face, and then the font is called Northbot, I guess. North. I don't know if it's with the dash, but Northbot, and then path is, it's in the same folder, just northbot.otf, and then we can do font family of Northbot, and yep, that worked. Now this font sucks for my purpose, so I'll have to find another one. Hacker font, and I should also look for free fonts. I would have used this one, but it's just very out of place. Show font categories. They only have 7 of those. Unknown. Anonymous state. The thing is, some fonts will be cool for the logo and for the heading and so on, but they won't be good for filling up the form and so on. So I guess we'll do one for the logo and for the heading and so on, and for the other ones we'll just do like Monsterrat or something like that. But let's see if we like anyone better. I already clicked on this one, so we'll download this one and see what happens. It's a whole zip. Let's extract it, and here we have the TTF file, and I already lost it. So where is it? Home, downloads. Alright, so let me try with this one. I can also just wait, repos, sign up form, paste. Can I copy this and then use it here? Document, no, not this one. There are too many tabs open now. But anyways, I'll just rename all of this. Right, so that didn't work because this is .ttf. Alright, so it kind of works, I guess. It's mostly the same, just uppercase letters are a different style, so I'm not going to bother with it no more because it's kind of out of scope. Let's read through the rest of it. How you attack this project is mostly up to you, but it's wise to begin by scaffolding out the structure of the page and then tackle the various sections one by one. The area behind the Odin logo is a div that has a dark but semi-transparent background color. This enhances readability of the text against the busy background image, so we've already done that. The color we've chosen for the create account button is similar tones found in the background image specifically. Alright, so this one maybe we can instead do it with the matrix green color. So the inputs by default have a very light border, but we've included two variations. For starters, the password input should have a red border, If they contain an invalid password, this can be handled with the invalid pseudo class you've learned in the previous lessons. The other variation is the selected input, which should have a blue border and a zero box shadow. This can be done with the focus pseudo class you've learned. Alright, so style the focus and the invalid. Do not worry about making your project look nice on mobile. Validating that the password fields match each other requires JavaScript. Using JavaScript to validate forms is covered in a future lesson. For now, just validate each field separately. Alright, so there is nothing too much we should do, but I guess let's make it look a little bit nicer. And where do we start? So as you can see, the whole thing is like centered in the middle, so it should take as much place as it takes, but it should be centered in the middle. And let me close these so they don't distract me, but let me submit it to GitHub. Git add git commit. So basic sign up form from the Odin project, still in progress. Alright, git push. So we have one commit already, but besides that, as I said, everything should be centered in this site form. So I guess we can make the site form a display flex. Site form display flex, and we can do a flex direction of column, and after that we can justify content center. Yep, so this way everything is kind of in the center. Now also we need a little bit of padding on the side, so we'll do let's say padding of 20 pixels. Let's see how that looks. I don't see how that looks. A little bit more, maybe 50. Alright. So as you can see, already some of the input fields started going on to the next row. I'm curious, why don't we see input labels, but maybe it's their cover. We'll see in a minute. Welcome to Hacker Forum. Alright, so on and so forth. Now this one has a little bit more either line height or margin that I would, or padding that I would like, and you cannot really see it, but it's the margin, so we'll kind of remove some of that for the H1, H2, and the p tag we can leave it. So H1, we'll set the margin to, let's say, 5 pixels, because also on the H2 we'll have margin of another 5 pixels, and this will bring them a little bit closer together, so they're more related, let's say. Now the step in is kind of lower than it should be. Let me also check its margin. Layout, it has a margin of 16, so we haven't put in a class here, so we'll do a class of what do we say? Of para. So you can do also dot para, and again we'll set the margin to 5 pixels. So this way they're a little bit more related, although it still looks like a whole abomination. But anyways, we'll put them underneath the body. And after that, I think we're kind of ready to start setting up the form. It seems you didn't enter any text into the label tag. Indeed. Wow. That's cool. Thank you so much. Indeed, that's the case. Alright, so first name, I forget that you also have to set in the text in the label. So last name, email address, we have telephone number, we have a password, and then confirm password. Alright, and this way we have the labels. Indeed, thank you so much, really appreciate it. Perfect. Do we also have any other fields? I don't think so. Now these labels should be on top of the inputs, and as you can see here. Now how do you do that? Is that done by targeting the form and making it a display flex? I'm not sure, but we can try. So form display flex, not really. Flex direction column. So this is kind of doing it, but this way I don't think that's the right way to do it, because then obviously the input fields are taking a lot of space and are right besides each other. But let's Google it, how to make a label on top of form input. Alright, so at the moment it's producing and so on, and he has the same like input label display block. I'd make the input and label elements display block, and then split the name, label and input and the email label and input into divs and fold them next to each other. So they're still using fold for this one. I don't think this is a better solution. I'm just going to see what happens if I do them display block. And what if I do just the labels display block? That does the same thing. Input display block, yeah. Right, so I'm not sure about this solution. Maybe we'll have to use flex somewhere. I would wrap 3 of the labels plus inputs into divs and display flex on the form. Alright, then from there I'll display each item in its div in a column. This way the label will be above the input. Yeah, Indeed, Chris, thank you so much. This was indeed what I was first thinking. To set it like this to a separate column and this to another column. And when I was writing the HTML, I thought maybe I shouldn't write the first name next to the last name next to the email, because then these three will be in the column. But then I figured I'll be making the inputs a certain length, and that way they will wrap next to each other, because we will not be making the design responsive. So this way they can kind of have the same width and they'll flow next to each other. But yeah, I'm still wondering if that's the correct way to do it. Simply column flex direction, the label and the inputs. I guess all of them are doing some sort of display flex, so display block. Labels above or next to input. This is just, he's just asking if they should be next to or on top of it. Web design. I'm trying to get my labels of my form above their input boxes. Display inline box. So they're doing a group. So this way each input and label is in a class of group, and they're making them inline block. Let me try this for a couple of them to see if that will work, because this is a interesting solution. Let's say group, and we'll add the first name in here. Also do a group and add the last name in here, and we'll do one more for the email. Group. Okay, so let's do dot group display inline block, and right, that didn't work at all. Display inline block. I'm wondering why that didn't do anything. Dot group. Did I save it here? Yeah. Class group. Yes, I did, but what if we just leave it to block? No, inline block, but alright. Maybe I guess we'll have to switch it out and instead use the way that Kriskita suggests with the display flex. So we'll kind of have to make it into a div with a class of call1, let's say, and this kind of a bootstrap class, but anyways we can use that, and then another with a call2. This could also be IDs because we're not going to use them anywhere else, but and in the first column we should have the first name, the email, and the password. So password, we can get it out of here, and then for column 2 we can have last name, phone number. We didn't remove this from here, so we can delete that, get the phone number, and the confirm password. Alright, so these are all the fields in both of the groups. we can remove this group div, and then we have it there now in two separate columns that are going to be next to each other. Display flex on the form. You said display flex on the form, so form and then do display flex. So you can do that, but this way we'll have to get the button out of the form, which I think is the case in here, and they just after that link the button to the form. But as you can see here, I think their button is also outside of the form itself, so we'll remove it for now, and in a bit I'll find out how to link the button to the form. But this way now we have first name, then we can set label to, what is it, display block, or was that the solution? Yes, I think so. Now why is the button still like stretched? I'm not sure about that. We'll figure it out. For now, one thing that bothers me is that the input fields have like a white background, which, let's fix it. Input, is it using the background color? Can we do black? Yep, it is using the the background color. So instead of that, I think we will use the RGB, and then we'll make, I think we have to define like a global green color, matrix green color, so they have the dark green, and we can maybe copy both of these and put them in a variable, because I also have to remember how you did the variables. It was I think dark green, and then you set the hex value. Was that how you do it? No, I don't think so. CSS variables, I already forgot how you did CSS variables. You had to do them inside of the root. Alright, so root. So indeed, this is the way to do it. They just have to be put inside of a selector, inside of a scope, and we have light green, which is this second one. Alright, so now I can get rid of those, put the root on top. We could also do it in the body actually, so we don't have additional selector. Let's do it in the body. Okay, and we can do the background color set as that, and then we have a border of 1 pixel solid, and then do var. And let's try it with dark green first, and maybe we'll try it with dark green because they said, wait, let me read through it, but they said they want to have the inputs by default have a very light border, but we've included two variations. For starters, the password inputs should have a red border if they contain a invalid password. This can be handled with the invalid pseudoclass, so we need a red color for the invalid. The other variation is the selected input, which should have a blue border and zero box shadow. This can be done with the focus pseudo class. Alright, so for the focus, I think we should be using the lighter green color, and by default we should be using the darker one. So we'll use dark green. Let's see how that looks. Okay, can we do it 2 pixels? So this is a bit more noticeable. Also, the input has to have a bit more padding. Let's just say 10 pixels, and we'll fix it after that if we need to. Also, let's do input focus, because I just saw the white border and it bothered me, so we'll do input focus. I think what happens? Shorthand property, I think we had to use 2 colons. Let's see, light green, no, just 1 then. Yep. Alright, so that still doesn't work. Light green, light green. As you can see, when I select it, there's still a white border, but maybe that's the outline. So let's see, let's say outline none. Let's see if that helps. Alright, so we indeed have an outline none, but maybe we should set the outline to this light green. Let's see how that works. No, still doesn't work. What if we set it to red? Just red. How does that work? No, it doesn't work. Right, that was interesting. No, I don't get that. Alright, we'll tackle it in a second. I just want some margin in between them. Let me just see how they should look. They should be a bit wider than they currently are. So how do we do that? Width 50 pixels. This is too small, 500. This is too large, 400, 300. So 300 looks about right. The padding is a little bit smaller, but the resolution is smaller, so we should add some margin, at least some margin bottom, so but also on the right. So margin, let's do 20 pixels first, but it will add it on the left side as well, which I don't want. So we'll do margin bottom of 20 pixels and also margin right of 20 pixels. Let's try that. Margin right, and this looks a bit more like it. Also on the top, so the labels are not too close, but we'll just add something like 5 pixels. Top, let's do 5 pixels. Alright, so this looks a bit better. Now also border radius, I would like to get them a bit rounder, maybe 5 pixels. And maybe this has to be 1 pixel as well. Yeah, so this looks a little bit better. Okay. Now the focus is something that bothers me, and also the color of the text. So color, can we set it to white? And this way when we type we can actually see the text. Telephone number, I think we should put in a type of hold shift to drop into the editor. No. Is there a type tel? Because here I can type like string characters into a telephone number, which doesn't make sense. So should it be a tel or a number? I don't know, but first let's do the focus because it bothers me. Focus. Input focus outline. How to remove focus border outline. They do outline none, but how do you change the color? Change outline color. How to change the border area? So they do non-important and they do then the border. Alright, so I guess we missed the important part of it. Input focus, dark green, we'll change it to light green and 1 pixel solid. But then before that we'll do outline none with a exclamation point important without this. Okay, so this way now when we select one of them we should normally get a lighter green outline, but this is not the case. This is because I've written light green wrong. Alright, so always check for silly things like that. This way it works now. Now I think the next thing I want to do is style that create account. I think it is larger than we need because where is the site form? I've set it as display flex. I don't think I need that. Oh no, I do actually need that. So it's in the center, but we can maybe do it without it because wait. What was the button? We don't have an ID or anything, so just button. And let's try flex shrink 1. No. Flex grow 0. Flex grow 1. No. How to make a element inside a flex container be as be only as large as it needs to. Flex shrink to the non-overflow the container. How do I set flex container to be the width of its flex items? Let me ask ChatGPT. I think this will be ChatGPT. I think this will be quicker. So I have a container with display flex, but the button inside of it is taking as much width as possible because the container is flex direction column, and I want the button to only be the size of the text inside of it. Okay, to make the button only as white as the text inside of it, you can set the button's width to auto and use align self to control its alignment within the flex container if needed. Here's how you can achieve that. So the container is display flex column and align items of center. So button is width of auto and align self to flex start. So let's start with that, with the flex width, not flex width, but just width of auto, and let's see how that works. Right, that didn't do anything, but flex, what was it? Sorry, I forgot already. Align self flex start. Align self flex start. Align self flex start. Not align, but align. Alright, so that indeed worked. Okay, so the align self flex start worked, and actually I don't need the width to auto, so just align self flex start. That makes sense. And let's start the button now. They did a large green button with white text, which is also what we're going to do. Let me see the button. So first we can do a background color of var, and we can use the light green. Then we'll do a border of none, padding of 20 pixels. Oops, padding. We can do 20 pixels and 10 pixels. Nope, the other way around. So 20 pixels and 10 pixels. And we need it a bit larger, so 20 and 40, let's say. Maybe that's a bit larger. Then we need result 30 and 15. Okay, the color needs to be white. Can we do font weight to bold? I don't know if we have the bold as an option. Oh yeah, we do have it. Alright, sure. Font weight to bold, font size also, let's say 24 pixels. That's a bit too much. 20, 18, and let's do border radius of 10 pixels. Alright, so a little bit more like it, although it has to be much wider and a bit less height. So more width, less height, 50 and 10. And actually I don't think I need the, yeah, I'll leave the font weight bold. A little bit more on top would be nice, and a little bit less border radius, so put it to 7, 5. Alright, so that's more like it. We have the create account. Actually what we can do is, in order to make this a bit more interactive, we can do a button hover, and then we'll set the background color to var and the light green, and if not hovered, we'll keep it on dark green. And that doesn't work. I think we have to have one semicolon. Alright. What are you doing? Bruh, add transitions also. Would setting, oh sorry, I didn't read the chat, I'm sorry guys. Would setting a custom width for the button also work? Yes, it will work. I'm just trying to not hard code any default values whenever I'm coding. I just don't like setting that a custom pixels, for example, let's say 20 pixels. It will work, but yeah, I just don't like doing it. Add transitions. Yeah, we could add transitions. Let me see how that was done. Do we add it in the hover? So transition. They have some predefined ones, but no. Add transition CSS. Let's see how that was done. They added to the default element, not to the hover state. So maybe you can get this out of here and do it on the button. And if we save it, no, it doesn't work. I have a lot of tabs open and my PC will crash soon, so I'll just remove those because I can feel it getting slower. So transition width height, transition add transition hover, fade in. Yep. So how do you do that? Try yourself. They do button hover, background cover. They just do the seconds. Alright. So that was easier than I remember. Okay. Transition. Do you see when I save it, there is a transition and the button gets bigger. Alright, I'm not exactly sure why that is, but we do have a transition. So cool, thanks so much MySQL coding. I like the transitions being a bit more responsive, so I do them in like 0.1 second. As you can see, it's not an instant switch and you can still see the transition, but it's more responsive this way. So that's what I like. Also, I guess for the A tag, we should put it a bit on top, but we have to do color and then var of light green, and this way the login will be the light color. Also, text decoration of none, so we don't have the underline. It is a bit hard to see and read, but I guess for the sake of this project and for the sake of the aesthetic, we can leave it as is. Okay. What time is it? Alright, let's see what else we should do. I think we should just separate the form a little bit from the heading and the button. So I guess we can add margin bottom to call 2 and margin top to call 1. We haven't add O 0.1 is in out. Alright, so do I add it on the button? O 0.1 is in out. Alright, so maybe in order to see it better, I think I'll have to bump up the duration. So it will be like, it will start slow, then quickly change the color, and when you hover off, it will again start quick. But yeah, I don't remember exactly, but Yeah, anyways. It was something like that, as I can remember, but transition. What was the O for? I don't remember. Alright, we'll keep it on 1 second. 0.1. So let's do call 1 and call 2 and add the margin top and margin bottom. Margin top, let's say 50 pixels, and then dot call 2 will add a margin bottom of 50 pixels. Alright, I didn't think this through. I didn't think this through. They are not yeah. We can do it to the form. Why am I making my life harder? I don't know, but we can just add it to the form. I don't know why I thought we had to do it to those columns, but yeah, let's just do it to the column. So to the form, I guess. Margin top 50 pixels and margin bottom to 50 pixels. Alright. Kind of looks like it. Maybe we can add a little border as well to the form. Let's try that. Border 1 pixel solid and then var with light green. I guess that works, but the O was for targeting all the elements that have transitions, but in our case we can just target background color, and let's try 0.5. I see. So, but I don't have to, or can I background color? Alright, so here you can add the name of that what you're transitioning, so the background color. I guess you would add O if that transition was set kind of in a global element, but correct me if I'm wrong. But here I guess we can remove this because there is only one thing we're transitioning. 0.5. I'm struggling to see what the ease in and out does, because it's still, wait, alright, ease in out. So I guess it happens a bit slower. Yeah, it eases in and out a bit slower than this. It's just linear. Alright, put it at 0.2. 3. Cool. Now I wanted this background, this border to kind of give us like this effect. I don't know how well you can see, but there is one background color and the form is like purely white. So I was going to add a border at the bottom and top to kind of separate everything, but as you can see, it borders the form and we have a margin on the right side and the left side, also a bit on the bottom. So this is not working too well. Maybe we can do an HR. Was that wait, let me, I have something to save here. Was that how you did it? So on top of the form, if we add an HR, it's just a dot, as I can see. Style HR. So HR dot, let's say HR dot border top, and we can do 1 pixel solid var and then do the light green. Would that work? Not really. Wait, let me inspect this and see why that is just a dot there. Site form, where is the HR? There you go, but I guess this will be a bit trickier than expected. I don't know if I'm going to do that for now, because the HR still has that margin left and right that we set on the site form. So yeah, I don't know if I'm doing that right now. It's just too much work for now. Let's just jump on the form validation, and afterwards we'll take care of that. Remove that HR, we don't need it. And that as well. Also on the form, I don't want the border no more. Okay, so let's keep it at that for now. And as I saw, they also have a text here of let's do it. Can you add text within the form HTML? An input element which typically didn't understand the question. How to add static text? No, this is how to add a title. Can you add title in the form? Title for a form. You just need to add a title attribute on the input field. So where do they do that? Form action method field set label. Just need to add a title attribute. I don't think this is what I'm looking for, but anyways, I don't know why I just don't try it. So we'll go inside the form and add an h3 and say let's do this. So indeed it works. The thing is it's next to the form, so I guess we'll just add it outside of the form. But you can add any HTML elements inside the form. Alright, that makes my life a little bit harder, but we'll just, I guess, remove this margin top and put it on the h3. So h3, and this is very bad how I'm writing this, but I'm only doing it for the project, so let's do this. And we'll put it margin bottom as well, 10 pixels. Nope, 20. Kind of. Let's do 25. It looks horrendous. It looks I really don't like how it's looking. Let's just put it that way. Thank you so much whoever subscribed. I really appreciate you, my guy. But yeah, we'll run with it for now. Let's just do the form validation. We have to what do they say? The inputs by default have a very light border, but we've included two variations. Alright, so red border if they contain an invalid password. For the password inputs, they're saying. And what about the email and the telephone? I think Saganik Chakra Borti bro, keep talking, your Slavic accent is fire. Thank you so much, my guy. I will keep talking. Sorry if I butchered your name, my guy. But anyways, they said it here for the password, but what about the email and the telephone as well? I think we should also do the invalid pseudo-class there as well. So let me just see what happens now if the field is invalid for the email. Let's say nothing. Okay, so let's target input types with input. How do you say the type? Is it type email? Is that how you target an input with the type of email? I'm not sure. Target input type CSS. So you do form input type equals text. So without the colons. Okay, and then do invalid. Then I guess border none, and we can do not border but outline none, and the border should be red. So this way, if the type of input is invalid, as you can see, it's red now. And this is the case right at the beginning, as you can see, which is kind of not what I like, but gmail.com, because as we've read in the previous articles, this is a type of aggressive validation, and it starts shining red even before the user has finished typing the email. So he could be writing a correct email, but we want to do this kind of when it's not focused, when it's invalid, when it's not focused. So what I'm trying to say is, while we're typing, we can type any bullshit we want, but after we step out of this field, for example, and we go onto the telephone number, if it's invalid, then it should shine red, and before that it shouldn't. So let me just quickly ask ChatGPT and ask him, I have a input field with the type of text that I want to have a red border if the email is invalid, but only do so after the user focused out of the input field. Let's see if it will tell us without JavaScript. If it involves JavaScript, we're not doing it. Do they have it in their community solutions? Let me just open a few of them. So here, for example, email. Yeah, this one doesn't have it. Okay. Oh, what is that? That is very interesting, but also it doesn't have this live validation. Let's see here. It says invalid email address, so this is a type of aggressive validation, but I guess can we do it without JavaScript? Yes, you can achieve this using HTML and CSS with the type invalid suit class, which works with input fields with validation requirements such as type email. Okay. Explanation invalid, focus not. So I think this is what I was looking for. So if it's invalid and it's not focused, I think this is what I needed. So let's see. So now, as you can see, it's not shining red, but yeah, it's still not working at gmail.com. Nope, it doesn't work. Invalid focus, not placeholder shown, red border for invalid email after focus out. Placeholder show ensures the border only appears after the user has typed something in the field and moved out of focus, not while the placeholder is still shown. So let me see if that works if we don't have a placeholder defined, because I think this is why it's not working, because we haven't added this placeholder shown. But let's see how that works. Now the not is also covered, so maybe this will work. No, it doesn't work. If I remove this, no. Alright, let's keep it at that and try to add a placeholder. So example at gmail.com. So here we have a placeholder now, but again, it begins shining red even while we're typing. Border color, no. It still shines red while we're typing. To prevent the red border from appearing while the user is typing, we can use invalid along with focus and placeholder shown. So I think input type email placeholder required, so on and so forth. We should add the required as well. Invalid, not focus, not placeholder shown. Alright. Let's try those pseudo classes and let's see if that works. I think this is what we needed, focus, not focus actually, but let's see. Happy to have witnessed such a project, but my time is up. See ya. Thank you so much for sticking through almost the whole thing, Supreme Overload. You've been here from the beginning. Thank you so much, my guy. You've spent a lot of time here. I can thankfully say that this fix worked now. So as you can see, it shines red after we've focused out of it. But yeah, thank you so much, Supreme Overload, my guy. You're always here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Have a great day ahead of you, or if it's night, have a good night's sleep. And yeah, see you next time, my guy. So I'm pretty proud of that. As you can see, it only starts to shine red after you focused out of it, and it actually lets you type in your email as you wish. So I do like that. Now I think we'll have to make those fields required. This has to be required, and also they should all be required, to be honest, but we can maybe leave the last name to be not required, or maybe telephone number can also but password and confirm password, they should be required. Confirm password. Telephone we can leave it not required, last name cannot be required, and password should be required. And first name. Alright, so we have required fields. Now I'm curious, how do you remove this white background while you're selecting from the autofill? But we'll check it out. Alright, I'm taking a quick 10-minute break since it's been a while since my last break, and yeah, I'll be right back with you guys. Thank you so much. I'll be right back. Alright boys, the timer is off and we're going at it again. Now let's see what else we have to do. I figured that we have to link a button to a form. I think maybe it was the for input type submit form my form. So you have to add a ID to the form and then do a form. Now let me close all this, I don't need it. Going back at it, we add a ID to the form, so form ID, we'll do form, and then the button we'll do form. So this way the button now works and submits the form. Another thing that I figured is we should add optional to, because first name is required, email is required, password and confirm password is required, and only last name and telephone number are optional. In the previous articles we learned that we should add optional if the optionals field are less than the required ones, and required if the required fields are less than the optional ones. So in this case we'll add a parenthesis optional to the telephone number and last name, and we'll in parentheses type optional. Same for the telephone number. Okay, so those are optional. Should I do it in lowercase? No, uppercase is good. And by default we know that all of these are required to submit the form. Now anything else that they want, validating that the password fields match each other. Alright, so don't worry about making the project look nice. The other variation is the selected input. So they're not this project passwords do not match. So this password does not match and so on is done with JavaScript. Let's just add placeholders, for example. There is a placeholder for email, and let's also add it for password, so it will be 1 2 3 4 5 6 required placeholder, or add in the same placeholder for confirm password, or add in a placeholder for the number, for example this is probably someone's phone number, but anyways. Last name, hero at, let's say, Smith, and for first name we'll require we'll add in John. Alright, so all the fields now have placeholders, and upon starting to type you don't see the placeholders no more. But yeah, what else should we add? Telephone number input, add only numbers. Easy one. I want only numbers to be entered in the telephone number input field. How do I do that in simple.js? You can use type number. Alright, so it only accepts numbers in your input. So input type tel. So I guess it's better to tel for mobile users, because on there you get the on a mobile you get the telephone keyboard, but this way we can add strings on desktop. Let's just ask ChatGPT. I have a telephone input field with the type tel, which I guess is better for semantics, but I can write strings in that field, which I don't want. So should I change it to number or change it to type number, or there's another way to do it that doesn't involve JavaScript? Alright, so keeping type tel for semantic purposes is a good choice, especially for mobile friendly forms. To restrict field to numeric input without JavaScript, you can use pattern attribute in combination with input mode numeric. So input mode numeric. Hints to mobile devices to show a numeric keypad, which enhances the user experience. So the type tel on itself will not do it, but maybe with pattern we can do it. Wait, let me try this out. So what is the number here? So if we add a pattern, and we can still type whatever we want in it. So I guess that's something for later. Say John, email address needs to be filled in, so anything. As you can see, if it's not correct, will start shining red at gmail.com. If we try to match it here, password and so on, create account, never. The thing is, we have to use post, because here we get the passwords and so on in the URL tab. So if someone was streaming like me and they submit the form, you'll be able to see his password. So maybe we can do the form with the action. What was it? Method of post. So let me see now if we start typing the necessary details. Alright, it will try to post it, but there is nowhere to post it. As of right now, I'll just remove that, and I believe we're done with this project, since I don't know what else to add. Of course, I could stay here until tomorrow and just add more functionality and so on, but I don't think this is needed. I think we're mostly done with it, and if there is anything else, I guess we'll come back. I think for the confirmation of the passwords using JavaScript, we'll have to come back, but this is not in the scope of this project, as they said, so we're just going to commit it now. Git commit. Alright, so added most of the functionality, may come back later to add validation between the password and confirm password. Alright, so save this for now. We'll do git push, and let me go into GitHub so I can do the pages, your profile, sign up form. Alright, and here in the settings, actually, before it was quite hard to get your thing hosted on GitHub pages, and now it's very easy. You just have to go into the settings and make your main branch a default, and then you just have to wait for this build. But before that it was more complex, as I can remember, but it's been years since then, so that's good. So let's just wait for that so I can submit the project. I guess I can already start by putting the link right here and wait for the deploy, so we have a live link. Okay, perfect. Hacker forum, nice. Save it, and we're done with this project. Let me see what else we had to do. Introduction to grid. So finally we'll have some CSS grid. Let me view the course. I believe after that we had another no, we have creating a grid, positioning grid elements, so on and so forth. So we have a lot of reading after that on CSS grid, but we'll tackle this in the next stream because I am already done for today. Thank you everyone who tuned in, and tomorrow we're continuing with CSS grid. Thank you for coming to the stream, truly appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next time, probably tomorrow. Peace out, bye bye.